better Nigeria. So today we're looking at World Bank's stance on
The
15.
volume is low.
Prof, you're actually on air. Do you know that? Hello, Prof. Hello, Prof. Are you with me?
It.
Can you hear me now? Okay, just hold on. You'll be introduced shortly. Just stay with me. All right, so now Prof is joining us via phone on Spotlight. We're looking at World Bank's stance on 15-year reform for Nigeria. So that has generated a lot of reactions, and still is. Indemit Gill, the World Bank's senior vice president, recently sparked concerns among Nigerians with his statement that the country needs to maintain its current economic reforms for another 10 to 15 years to achieve transformation. So the state staying the course with the reforms. Bola will give us insight on this and solutions he would prefer at the end of the program. Professor Segun Ajibola is the past president, Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria. He's a professor of economics, Babcock University. So good to have you once again, Prof.
Thank you.
All right, Prof. So now, how would you analyze the effectiveness of the Tinubu-led administration's economic policies? Let's start from there. Can you hear me? Hello, Prof.
Hello.
Yeah, can you hear me?
The volume is going up and down. I was hearing you when but now it's again going off.
Okay. So we'll check that now. So, but did you get the question? Hello, Prof.
Please, can you repeat the question?
Okay, so I said, how would you analyze the effectiveness of President Tinubu's policies, economic policies specifically?
Which of them? Let's be specific.
So now the thing is, you should bring up the ones you think you would want to emphasize on, like the petrol subsidy removal or the floating of the naira. You're the expert, so you would know better what's playing out in the finance sector.
Well, I maybe let's do it this way. If we pick a particular policy dimension, because the direction, the trust, and perhaps the impact differ from policy to policy. But since you have zeroing on two, let me say this for a start. That when you talk about economic reforms are not usually the cause of economic pains, but rather consequence of what ought to have been done, but a country failed to do. So we are talking about economic reforms as of today. We are looking at a policy dimension that is trying to correct misalignment in policy formulation and policy implementation, perhaps for the past 6 decades. So a reform that is coming to adjust what has been misaligned for 6 decades cannot yield results within a space of 1-2 years. That is the problem. That is the disconnect. So whether we are talking about the reform in the petroleum industry, the reform in the foreign exchange market, we will agree that lots and lots have gone wrong in the way and manner Nigeria has gone about the use of policy measures to direct the affairs of these two critical aspects of our national life over the decades. Let's talk about the petroleum subsidy. The first thing is the old subsidy regime, even though it was able to pump fuel to Nigerians at much cheaper price. The cabal in the industry, those who were in that segment of the society were living on economic rent. In other words, they were sucking the system and living large, becoming fat cats for doing nothing, for adding no value to the economy. That's a misalignment. Then, all sorts of malpractices, smuggling of petroleum products across borders, and so on, were rife. Now, to correct that is what economists will call appropriate pricing. But the problem with us is that we have so low purchasing power as Nigerians that appropriate pricing will price so many people out of reach. And the resultant effect will be inability to afford such a basic item. So it's another misalignment. What you need to spend and what comes to your pocket as purchasing power.
Okay.
So that is the major problem that we have as of today. That if you look at the purchasing power of an average Nigerian, is not in a position to pay appropriate pricing for some of these items we call public goods.
Okay.
So that's number one challenge. Now come to the foreign exchange market. Arbitrage in foreign exchange market occurs when the spread between official exchange rates and the what is often referred to as the black market exchange rate, when the arbitrage is so wide. And under the last dispensation, it got to a point when the differential between official rate and the other market rate was about 300 naira. In other words, anybody that was able to lay his hand on the official exchange rate, maybe $1 million, and going to the other market to sell, will make a profit arbitrage margin of 300 million. That's scandalous, if not unethical.
Okay.
Such a practice can never uphold the sanctity of an economy. So there is no leader that will emerge loving the system, loving the people, wants to preserve the sanctity of an economic system that will allow that to continue.
Okay.
I think that's what informed the unification of the foreign exchange market. But again, in unifying exchange rates, Nigeria as a country is at a disadvantage because our currency is not a convertible currency. So it's not in demand at the international market. Then, Nigeria is still an import-dependent economy. In other words, irrespective of the ruling exchange rate, there are certain basic items that Nigeria cannot afford not to import, from food to medicals to spare parts to raw materials and co. So that makes the economy vulnerable
Okay.
to the foreign exchange market.
All right, Prof. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, that's very insightful. Thank you. So now you've established, some of the issues and why you think there is a need for economic reforms. But how about the timing? Do you think the timing for the reforms might be part of the issue?
The volume is.
Okay, Prof, just hold on. Do you think the timing
Now, yes,
Do you think the timing for the reforms by the Tinubu-led administration is part of the problem?
I don't know what you talk about timing. You know, the problem is,
No, no,
uh,
let me expatiate. When I say timing, I mean that coming at this time, the removal of petrol subsidy. Do you think there are some things that should have been put in place first before, the government goes on to remove subsidy or float the naira?
of opinion. You see, don't forget that there are certain things, if not done swiftly, if not done radically, may never be done. That is the reality. If, for example, like in 1986, when the then General Babangida threw open the debate on IMF loan, and it linger. I will assume that if it be thrown open, whether we should unify the foreign exchange market, remove petroleum subsidy and co, we might still have been on that debate up to now.
Okay.
So at times, leadership entails courage and the desire to take decision.
Okay.
What should follow is immediately after the decision, economic managers, what should they do to now help? And if you ask me, I think that's where we have some gaps.
Okay.
So what should be done? If we say, oh, wait,
No,
it should have been
we'll
1 year after.
We'll get to the solution part, Prof. Hello, Prof. We'll get to the solution part shortly. But now, how does this translate to disposable income for Nigerians now? Like you're saying that the reforms are good, that radical steps have to be taken, but all of it is futile if Nigerians are not getting the benefits of these reforms. So, how do you think the administration can ensure that the current economic reforms translate into sustainable growth and development in the country?
Okay, so you want us to start providing solutions now?
Well, not entirely, but you can
No,
start.
well, yes. I mean, that is, in fact, that should be the area of emphasis anyway. That should be the area of emphasis. Where do we go from here?
We still have a lot of time, Prof.
I believe the first thing that should be done is how do we raise productivity level of an average Nigeria so that an average Nigeria becomes more self-reliant. Personally, I would recommend some elements of empowerment. You see, palliatives, as an economist, value exchanges for value. So when you give somebody bread today, he waits for another bread tomorrow. But when you teach him how to bake bread today, he's looking up to a bakery to bake his own bread tomorrow. We need to do a lot more in the area of empowerment at all levels. Women empowerment, youth empowerment, graduate empowerment, and they should cut across all tiers of government.
Okay.
Local government, state government in particular, that are closer to the people. If we look at the model, the Chinese model, the Indian model, and some other countries of the world, Malaysia, Singapore, South Korea, and co, where an African citizen is self-reliant, where an African citizen is himself an investor, is himself a producer. That is the orientation that we need to implant in our psyche, in our national life.
Okay.
So,
yeah, go on.
Hello.
Yes, go on, please.
So we need to do a lot more in that area. Because when you look at it and you see what is the means of livelihood of an average in Nigeria, it's either a casual worker, bricklayer, artisans, government employee, is in private sector, eking out a living, working in one kind of mill or the other, or struggling to manage one kind of micro business or the other. So there are lots of challenges facing an African Nigeria in terms of self-reliance, in terms of level of productivity, to be able to enhance its purchasing power.
Okay.
Secondly, is the area of infrastructure. Because if we are talking about empowerment, either you are an artisan, you are running a micro business, you need lots and lots of infrastructure, especially power, energy. Then the ease of doing business in terms of the friendliness of even the environment to such businesses, we need some improvement. Opening a micro business today, local government official will swoop on you, others here and there will swoop on you, and so on and so forth, that at the end of the day, you'll be asking yourself if it's worth it. Any kind of business, either you are talking about agriculture, either you are talking about agro-allied, and so on and so forth. So we need improvement in the area of infrastructure. We need improvement in the area of ease of doing business. Okay. So if we are able to quickly work on some of these things, then the issue of minimum wage that is not even enough to take care of the basic minimum requirements for an African person will not be so significant, because we will have produced and empowered millions of Nigerians that will be able to take care of themselves. Okay. These are areas that we need to concentrate on.
Okay. Now, Prof, in line with your recommendations now, I want you to just go over some of the solutions that this administration is profiling as regards, moves to cushion the effect of the petrol subsidy removal and some other economic policies. Now, the government recently announced the cash transfer program to 20 million households in Nigeria, saying that it will help to alleviate the poverty and cushion the effects of the economic reforms. How do you see this playing out?
Well, like I said, transfer, if is for purpose of empowerment, and I'm aware that some of them are for empowerment. In other words, creating economic values, turning individuals to a productive element, a productive agent in the economy. If the transfer is for that purpose, and like I said, I'm aware some of them, they are for that purpose, all well and good. They will empower, they will enhance productivity, they will enrich the level of output in the economy. But transfers that are for purposes of consumption, they don't provide permanent solutions to problems, because the transfer will get here today, you utilize it for purpose of consumption, food and other things, and you are waiting for the next one. Okay. The transfer that is to make you an economically productive individual is much, much welcome. And that is what I said earlier on, by way of empowerment. Other women empowerment, youth empowerment, graduate empowerment, and so on and so forth. Even empowerment of retirees to be able to take care of themselves. Post-retirement, there are things they can do if properly empowered.
Okay.
That is what I have seen that has worked wonders in some other jurisdictions. So if we can drive such area of our national life much more productively, I think we will have a new song to sing.
Okay, so you're saying that the 20 million cash transfer is not necessarily a good move by the government?
No, misquote me. I said transfer that is for purpose of empowerment is welcome. But limit any transfer that is for purpose of consumption, because whoever receives it today will be waiting for another one tomorrow. But let's craft a program where such transfer to household will be to turn them to economic agents, productive agents, train them in specific areas of the economy. There are so many opportunities. There are so many opportunities begging for attention.
Okay.
There are so many things, household items,
Okay.
detergents, and other things, where people can go and engage themselves, learn some skills, skill acquisition.
Skill acquisition. Okay.
So make funds available for skills acquisition. Then make funds available for individuals to become economic agents, to set up their own businesses. There are so many things that we import into this country that we have no business importing. Given the resilience of Nigerians, given what Nigerians can do, given the kind of skills Nigerians display, even outside this country, there are so many areas that we can continue to produce what we use and use what we produce.
Okay.
So many things are begging for attention. So many areas are begging for exploration.
Okay.
So if funds are available, if such transfers go ahead to help those areas, then our story will change as a people, as a country.
All right. If you're listening to us, this is Spotlight on Super FM 92.7. You can be a part of the conversation. We're going over the World Bank's stance on the economic reforms being sustained for another 10 to 15 years. Let's get your thoughts, your contributions, and even questions. You can call 0805 092 0927. That's 0805 092 0927. Or 0705 890 4927. That's 0705 890 4927 for your contribution. Now, Prof, we're still going over some of the initiatives by this administration. In education now, there's a student loan program. Do you think this will increase accessibility to education and in a way help the economy?
Question to me?
Yes, please, go on. The student
of course,
loan program.
Definitely. I'm going by the statistics coming from the fund. The thousands, tens of thousands of Nigerian youths hungry for education that have accessed the facilities. So we believe the answer to that is a direct yes. And
do you know anyone that has accessed it, that has been able to access the loan successfully?
Hello?
Hello, Prof. I'm saying that, do you know anyone personally that has been able to access the loan?
I may not know. The statistics have been released. So unless we have any reason to contradict the statistics, state by state, for example, the last we had was that there have been so many beneficiaries up the Niger. There are many beneficiaries southwest, but east of Niger, that there have not been many. And I could see maybe some suggestions and some admonition going to the east of the Niger for students and will be students there to explore the opportunity. So if that is the case, and we are hearing the figures in terms of thousands of students, in terms of millions of naira already disbursed, then we can say, until otherwise proved, that is a scheme that is working.
All right, in the
private university. So private universities as of today are not entitled to it.
Okay. So now in the transportation sector, an initiative is a CNG powered vehicles to reduce the cost of commuting and the impact of the subsidy removal, the high cost of petrol now. So what do you think about the CNG powered buses and tricycles released by the government?
Well, I believe it's a good initiative. I think the end will justify the means. And what's the end? To reduce cost of transportation and cost generally, especially public means of transport, and also to help individuals manage cost of maintaining means of transport, personal cars and co. What I would just admonish is we need more and more training and education on this. So maybe there should be, government should set up free training centers for this CNG initiative, where people can go, maybe listen to some tutorials, 1 hour, 2 hours, and go, so that people don't go into the CNG initiatives in ignorance. We've read some worrisome stories of explosion and coal here and there. So Nigerians need more education in the use of the CNG. Let there be facilities to educate people, to admonish people, to equip people on how to go about it, so that at the end of the day, we have lots of gas resources being wasted years back. So we can utilize some of these resources to manage cost of living in Nigeria. CNG initiative is one of them, I believe.
Okay, so for the CNG initiative, do you, Prof? Yes, Prof. For the CNG initiative, do you have concerns about the cost? Because converting to the CNG, I hear the cost is about between 600,000 to 700,000, depends on the vehicle. A lot of Nigerians right now may not be able to afford that.
Well, I also heard so, but I believe over time it will come down. If we look at the story of MTN, Airtel, when they came as Econet, and you know what it used to cost to even acquire a line in the 20s. Today, they even give you lines free of charge. So with time, it will definitely come down. Any new initiative that debuts like that, ordinarily, is usually expensive, but I believe it will come down. That's all I can say about that.
Okay. Now let's look at the one of the issues now. One of the reasons we're having this conversation, the World Bank's stance. Some of the reactions are saying that international institutions like the World Bank and IMF are responsible for some of Nigeria's economic woes. What role do you think international institutions like the World Bank, like I said, have a role to play in the country's economic, the current state of the economy?
We usually make this mistake. You see, international financial institutions were never set up for purpose of making a country look good. Their primary mandate is not country specific. So they have every country that runs to either World Bank or IMF.
Yes, Prof, we can hear you.
It's usually at their mercy.
Okay.
So it's always very, very important for every country to be conscious of this fact, that for us to go to IMF, for us to go to the World Bank, we have bigger bargaining power. You know, over the years, as Nigeria, like I said, we've had a lot of gaps in our policy dimension. We've had a lot of disconnect in the way and manner we've managed the economy for 60 years and co. So our going to IMF, our going to World Bank, we are going there with weaker terms, with weaker conditions. So it's like we are a taker, having to absorb what they feel are conditions under which they can deal with Nigeria. Like any other country they've been to Ghana, they've been to Zimbabwe, and so on and so forth. So it's usually taking our own destiny